And today on this show, we have with us a very dear friend, Neela Gohil. Neela is somebody whom I kept we kept meeting at various events. We were at the same event, same time, but we never interacted. We never happened to go and speak to each other or even meet each other. And then somewhere in 2020, it just happened. Maybe it was a divine plan. And before I talk about that as to how I met Neela, let me tell you about this lady who's a healing facilitator. She's somebody who's had an adventurous, amazing life, and how she's come out of the challenges of relationship is what she brings in her book, Bridge the Love Gap. You can get a copy of this book somewhere on Amazon, I believe. Neela is also a relationship coach. नीला हमारे साथ लंदन से ज्वाइन Hi, how are you doing?
Lovely to see you here. Such a long time since we met.
Such a long time. And what a moment of meeting that was, Neela.
Yeah.
What a moment of meeting that was.
I feel it's a divine intervention, the way we've met.
Thank you so much for being a part of my life. Thank you so much for sharing love, holding the space when probably I needed the most. The year 2020 has been very tough, and we met right before COVID started.
Yes. No, thank you. I'm just so grateful. It's such a privilege to even, connect with you, and look how life has happened. I'm here with you now.
And COVID got you to write your book. Finally, Love the Bridge Gap is here. Sorry, Bridge the Love Gap.
Yes, it is here. And I'm just really excited. The book's been out a month now. And people have already started reading it and using the exercises. And, like you say, I don't believe this book was written for COVID because I've been writing it. It took me nearly 2 years to write it, but I've been writing it much before then. And maybe, the divine wanted it to be launched now because it's needed, right? Love and connection.
During these times, especially when people have been, at home 24/7 for 9 months almost, there have been a lot of insights into relationships that they found. Many people have realized that, what are the challenges in their relationships, and many people have actually found solutions to those challenges. And Here we have a guest, Hem Dhulakia, who says, have read the book, absolutely fab.
Wow, that's amazing. I'd love a review. Thank you so much.
And we have Harish Singh, who's wishing us a very good evening. Neela, to start with our conversation, my first question to you would be, why bridge the love gap? Why do you feel there's a need to, why do you feel that there's a gap and there's a need to bridge it? Love is love.
Yeah, love is love, yet a lot of people don't know what love really is. I talk a lot about in the book, what does love mean to you? Because it means different things to different people, depending on what your upbringing was like. And if you think about it, most things, in life, because I believe we're all complete, we're not separate. We're not separate from the divine or each other. It's an illusion, right? Yes, so why I say gap is because it's the gap that makes it so that there is then no love, because there's a gap between where you are right now and where you want to be, or where you are with another person. And it creates a divide, it creates a gap. So what I'm helping you to do is really bridge that gap whether it be with love, connection, joy, harmony.
So, Neela, when you talk about oneness, when you talk about, we being separate, being an illusion, what is oneness?
So, we're born into the world as, think of a baby. It comes into the world. We all come from source. We actually all come from love itself. What then happens is then we start life, we start living, and things happen to us. As a child, we get programmed, whether it's with our parents, whether it's with our teachers, our siblings, our family members, and the child starts slowly learning about life and forgetting that they're really loved. So they start behaving in ways to get love. Maybe, they learn early on to have your mother pick you up, you need to cry, or if somebody's not, children are just like that, right? If they want to go to the toilet or they want to eat, they express themselves like that. But I think as you then grow up, you then realize, in order for my mum or dad to love me, I must behave in a certain way. And so we become conditioned.
So do you think, it is that we become conditioned, or what we see around us conditions us in a certain manner? Because a child would not know what love is, or how he or she should seek love, right? All a child feels is joy.
Yes. So I think it's just a conditioned response. And I think, I talk in the book the way, we are actually wired in the brain, and how we actually take information in. Like you say, we all take information in via, our senses, our feelings, and all of these things, the words we hear, and we actually delete, generalize, and distort everything in our brain. We filter it. And that becomes our model of the world. So what I'm saying, at very young, obviously the child, I think when the child's kind of above 3, then it starts learning, a bit more. But before the age of 3, I think they just hang out in love. And then they kind of turn, they get to 3 and they start talking and walking.
Start becoming monstrous.
Yeah, and they start communicating their needs. So a lot of it is, they want to get their needs met as a child. And I think one of the biggest needs in life is love and connection. We are born for that.
So tell me one thing, Neela, when you talk about love and connection, and when you talk about a child starting communicating to get his needs met, I think today the biggest challenge across humanity is communication. Yes. And communication isn't just what I am talking to you. It's what you are understanding and then reverting back. Yes. And that is where that's my personal belief, that is where we fail in all relationship. Because I could be saying something, meaning something, and you could be understanding, comprehending it in some very, very different manner altogether.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. We all have a different model of the world, depending on how we were brought up. And it's, it's interesting you say about the communication, because our energy speaks before we do. So we can even not, when I met you, it was almost wordless.
We even talk. We were together for hours, sitting together, hugging each other, holding each other's space, and we didn't speak.
Yeah. So that's also a formless, wordless communication, which is just the energy, because everything is energy. And if you think about it, only 7% of the, in communication is verbal, in the words we speak. If you think about it, 55% is in everything else, our gestures, the way we are. And the alarming thing why communication is such a challenge is because 38% is in the tone in which you speak, which makes a massive difference. Because if you say, depending on how you speak to somebody or how you request something, that other person, will take it a different way.
I absolutely agree. And, for me, I'm somebody who likes to listen, who likes to feel.
Yeah.
And to me, more than the words you're using, the way you're using your words matter.
Yes.
More than what you're saying, how you're making me feel matters. And I believe for most of us human beings, what we remember is how you felt in a certain situation, how you felt with a certain person,
Yeah.
rather than what the person said or did not say. So then, why is communication the key to bridging the love gap?
Because this is our number one human need. Like if you think about Maslow's, I've written about it in the book, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right down the bottom, it's all about survival, the basic stuff in life. But as you get more up the pyramid, belonging and connection is one of the biggest human needs that needs to be met before we then become kind of self-actualized. So that's why it's really important. It's been, Maslow's talked about it. So many people have talked about it. I mean, even if you look in lockdown, it's taken for granted about communication, about connection, because, and there are different ways of doing it. And I just believe, it all comes down to how present you are with the person. Are you really feeling them? Are you in rapport with them? Because these are the barriers to communication. When we're not really listening, or we're not understanding where the other person is from a place of presence.
So we have Rekha Gupta with us, who says, "Wow, so true." And him again says, "Yeah, the book teaches us to love yourself." So you spoke about belonging. You spoke about, the connection and how love is also connected to the feeling of belonging. So do you really need to feel belonged to someone or something? Isn't belonging to yourself enough?
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. Relationships, I believe, are the key source to happiness, whether that's a relationship you have with somebody else, or a relationship you have with God, or the divine, or your friends, or your family. And then the biggest one, which people really miss out on, is the relationship they have with themselves. Because if we've come from love and then suddenly things start happening, we forget, we don't factor ourselves in because we're so busy. And I know, like, some of the people that I've come across are carers, or, people that care about other people. So what they often do, they're so busy taking care of everybody else that they
Givers
forget.
and the carers, they are
Yeah,
so busy giving out, they are so busy caring for others, they are so busy looking after everybody else that they forget to look after themselves. And
exactly.
in turn, their emotions somewhere become dark, because what they are giving out, it is not being reciprocated probably in the same intensity.
Exactly. And that's where that saying comes, you can't pour from an empty cup. Because you have to fill yourself up first with that love and that care and everything else. And then you realize, oh, now my cup's full. Now I can help others. I can give others.
I can completely correlate if I look back at what I used to be a couple of years back, or probably very recently as well. I think all my childhood, I have been seeking validation and love outside of me.
Yes.
And only when I started accepting myself, it wasn't required anymore whether anybody else accepts or loves me or not.
And that's such a wonderful feeling, because I think I've had that similar feeling as well. When I grew up, I was quite a carer as well. Because obviously, like with my mum, she was very sick. She actually developed cancer at the age of 36, I remember. So early on, I became a carer. And whilst it was amazing, that whole journey, I never regret anything. I look back and I think, gosh, I didn't really take care of myself. I've kind of learned the hard way.
So do you think while caring for somebody else, you can care for yourself as well at the same time?
You can, if you're aware of it and you've got that healthy discipline about you. But the issue is it becomes very overwhelming. If you think in this modern day world, most people have got a job or a family, in London, you guys are so lucky. In India, you have maids, you have cooks, you have drivers. In London,
you're most welcome here.
Well, I lived there. Yeah, and I loved it. 7 years I lived in India, and that's what I can say really helped me, because for once in my life, I didn't have to worry about all of that stuff. Whereas I'm talking about in London, we don't have all that home help. So if you think about somebody who's caring for an elderly parent or a sick parent or children, they have a job, they have to do their shopping, cooking, cleaning, all the other areas.
When we come back to self-love and when we come back to a relationship, why do relationships fail? You being a relationship coach, keeping self-love aside. In general, suppose two people feel content with themselves and yet relationships fail.
Yes. So the reason they fail is because there's too many expectations. Like there's conflict that happens. There's a moment where the other person gets too attached to their partner, maybe. I mean, even if you come into it, because when you come into a relationship, you are unique. You are yourself. And then suddenly, the person falls in love with you because of those qualities. And then somehow, some unspoken rules happen and it becomes a possession. It starts.
Basically, what you're talking about is toxicity in relationships. But don't you think that connections happen or love happens because you've accepted the other person 100%?
Well, I don't think anybody's really accepting anybody 100%, to be honest. I think they're quite selfish. They're always looking out for what's in it for me, if you think about it, I mean, some of the clients I've worked with, it's like, so what kind of relationship you want? They'll talk about everything they want from that relationship first. It's quite selfish. And then, it's like a tick box exercise. Is he like this or is she like this? Or, and then I think
everybody looks for compatibility. Everybody wants a match. Everybody has a tick the box list, right? So what's wrong in that?
No, but you can be compatible with somebody and then you can have chemistry, right? There's so many people, you can be compatible with somebody but not like each other. So think, for example, you being in a workplace or you're doing a job with somebody. Yes, you're compatible with them, but you may not necessarily be their best fan. There's so many people I know, they're in relationships, they're compatible, but they just don't have that connection. The connection.
You mean there could be two people who are very compatible, living in the same house, as lovers, as partners, and yet not be in love?
Yes, because they've lost that connection somewhere. And then there are people that are in relationships and they have that chemistry, that kind of spark that happens. You just know it on a vibrational level. It's like there's something about this guy or this girl, I'm attracted to them, and it's like the fireworks are all going off, but you've got no connection beyond the bedroom, beyond the physical. So there's many examples, and what's missing in both examples, if you talk about chemistry and you talk about compatibility, is connection. That's why it's so important.
What is this connection and how do you develop this connection? What is the solution? How do you bridge the gap?
Yeah, so the connection is, firstly, it's really, being able to pause and become present. And I think that's what it is. A lot of people are not self-aware of themselves. So the first chapter in my book is called Awareness Bridge. They're not actually aware of who they are. You know, they're always looking outside of themselves for the answers. So what I'm taking you through, like the journey in the book, is really discovering who you are. What do you know, who are you as a person? You know, where do these behaviors come from? These beliefs come from? What's stopping you from connecting at that level? What are the practices that will bring you
So
right here?
before we come to the behaviors and the beliefs and the practices that are stopping one from going ahead and forming a connection, we have Cam with us who says, Neela, stay the amazing sister,
Yes,
a
it's my
true soul who wants to help those on their journey. Neela, I know that you've helped many on their journey of life. You are a journey coach as well, along with helping people evolve in their relationships. Coming back to the gap in connection and coming back to, you know, how to actually develop or build that connection with the other,
yes.
wherein two people can, whether they have a chemistry or compatibility, or whether they have both, the connection is one thing which makes them happy and joyous in that relationship, which keeps the spark alive for probably a long period. I don't believe in forevers, but then probably there is a forever. Yeah, do tell me.
Yeah, because I think, you know, it's going to sound crazy, but if we think about it like this, you know, we were put on this earth for a reason. You know, our souls came in, we already formed a contract with that person that we were meant to be with, to learn a lesson. So if you think about that, we are all, you know, physical beings, you know, but we're having a spiritual experience. So even if you think about it like that, so you're put with somebody, obviously, if you're not aware of that, you know, you are on this lifetime journey to learn that. And I think along the way, you know, your ego gets in the way, you get triggered, certain things happen, but it's that person. Like I've always said, you know, you'll never find, don't go looking for your girlfriend or boyfriend, you know, or a guru, because
They reach you.
yeah,
Stop
they are your
fighting.
guru. You have to kiss their feet, because they're the people that are going to really allow you to grow. You've come in to learn life lessons. So while it may seem very painful at the time, you know, when somebody shouts at you or they don't give you the love that you deserve, and you realize, because in that moment you're not aware of it, because you don't know what you don't know, right? That's why I'm saying, when you come back to your level of awareness, you know, like I've written this book now. When I wrote it, it was amazing, because I have a much more different level of awareness now than I did when all of that childhood and everything else was going on. So it's just, you know, it's just realizing we're on this journey, and at each stage to review, you know, do a life audit almost of ourselves.
We have Seema Bed who asks us, how do we get the connection back and bridge the gap?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It depends what the connection, like she's talking about. So if I talk about two people, whether they're in a romantic relationship or friendship, say they've had an argument, and it happens. Even I know in this day and age, family members stop talking to each other, siblings have rivalry, or they stop talking. There's a lot of competition out there, right? So the thing is always, it's never about the other person. It's, you know, we might think it's the other person. How do we get the connection back? We need to look at ourselves. You know, we need to shine a light on those wounded places and those areas within us that are hurting, and then do that deep inner work and say, what is it in me? You know, what is this bringing up in me? And then you work through your patterns, and then you're able to build that connection.
So, Neela, when we talk about looking internally, working on your pattern, not everybody is aware. You and me, we have gone through a journey where we have done a lot of internal work, where we've spent a lot of time working on our inner self, working on, um, contemplation, working on looking at what is more that I can do to improve myself rather than blaming someone else.
Yes.
What if someone who is in a place of blame, shame, guilt? What if someone is in a place of, um, you know degrading, using derogatory language, using methods of putting the other person through trauma because they are scared of accepting their own self?
Yeah.
What in that kind of a
Yeah,
scenario?
and it's just that's life, we become fearful, that's what it is. It's all fear. They're all operating out of fear, but they just don't know it, that they're behaving in certain way. That's why I'm saying they're not actually consciously aware. So it's about, it's difficult because even with me, when I was in relationship before, and we've all been there, we've used that language, we've had those feelings, we've had that fear come up. I didn't just learn one day that, this is how I fix it. I think the first thing is you have to have that experience, no matter how traumatic or painful it will be. But once you have that, and then you look at what are the consequences of of that, is it I've lost a relationship, is it my health got bad? Because that's what usually happens, right? If we project our anger onto somebody, or behave in a certain way, that person is not going to stick around. I think we learn
Oh, it's not just about the other person sticking around, Neela.
yes.
In a toxic relationship, it is also about both of you feeling incomplete.
Yeah, so you're talking about toxic. I'm just talking about a normal,
Normal
any,
relationships are
yeah,
toxic to
they don't
a
exist.
huge level. Trust me, what you call normal is very abnormal. Like,
There isn't a perfect
I don't believe
relationship.
in normalcy at all.
There is no such thing. That's what I'm trying to get to. We're all human. We've all come to learn these lessons. We've all come to experience some level of pain, or some darkness, because if you didn't know the darkness, how will you know the light? You're just not going to know the light.
But why does one has to go through pain in relationships to experience darkness? Why can't relationships from the beginning be beautiful and nurturing and caring and full of joy and sparkle? I have had failed relationships, so I really want to know the answer to this question.
Well, I've had a series of both. I've had some absolutely amazing relationships. I mean, most of my relationships today touch my heart. I can say they are very beautiful, heart-centered. The vibration's lovely, and if you are at a certain vibration in terms of your energy, your consciousness, you are going to attract those kind of people into your life. All relationships are here to teach us about ourselves. They're just a mirror. They're just reflecting back who we are as a person. And yes, we have to go through that pain. We don't have to, but if that happens in your life, you may have come from you may be a child with a silver spoon in your mouth and being pampered and everything.
And yet
And
feel empty within.
yes, exactly, because you haven't got that inner connection. You've looked outside of it. You've had parents that have just kind of wrapped you up and made you feel safe and everything. So you don't know anything else. I think that, like with me, I'm somebody that's come from a very humble background. I've lived in a council home. My mum and dad, my mum was just the main breadwinner at home. My dad was physically challenged, and I've seen a lot of hardship. And I think that's why I probably experienced a lot of pain as a child. But then I believe that journey's allowed me to accelerate my growth. because now I meet people that have had a fantastic childhood. You know, there's been nothing wrong. And yet, like you say, there's this emptiness. They feel alone. It's like my life is too perfect.
You know, Neela, my master, my guide, my Triya Dada Shriji, he's written a book which is Lack of Love is Cause of Suffering. And I truly, truly believe in that and completely resonate with what you say. Because until and unless you feel loved, whether you want to experience that love from someone else or you want to experience that love from within, until and unless you feel that love and joy inside your heart,
Yes.
you can't really feel anything else, because everything else without love is dark, everything else without love is suffering, it is pain. And on that we have Seema Bed who says, so beautiful, Neela, will book my copy soon. Love you, Kanchan, you are amazing. Thank you so much, Seema, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Neela, I would like to flip a page of your book and read out a couple of lines, whatever comes out, and then I'll ask you some more questions.
Beautiful. Yeah, because you know, like you say, you know, suffering is optional.
Yes, it is. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I come to page 101, which says wake up calls. And before that, who or what pushes your buttons?
Oh,
In what ways can you release this pressure? Consider, when was the last time you gave yourself permission to just be playful and stop taking life so seriously? Take time out to relieve the pressure. List all the ways you can do this.
wow. So it's exactly what we've been talking about, isn't it? The triggers, the pressure that builds up. Like I have a story in there, it's about the pressure cooker. When I talk about your emotions.
Please share the story.
Yeah, because if you think about a pressure cooker, if it's the same way, like imagine you're the pressure cooker and inside all your emotions are boiling up. You know, they're boiling up, they're boiling up. You've got a lot of anger coming up. And some people know how to express that anger very easily because they'll just take it out on another without even thinking. And some people will just allow the pressure to build and build, right? But there comes a point where actually the whistle's going to go off. And God knows what's going to happen, right? So we are like pressure cookers.
Either the whistle goes off or the pressure cooker might burst.
Exactly.
Might burst and hit the ceiling.
Yeah, we just explode. You know, it's like the last straw. And people go, wow, you're such a calm person. And suddenly, so I notice in India, like, so I talk about different cultures. A lot of people in India that I've worked with, they are passively aggressive, I call them. So a lot of these people I know, especially because I know I've run events, you know, in India. So the hotelier staff, the people at reception, you know, you want something done and they're going, ha, 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 you know, I'll do it. And you're like, when? You know, 1 hour becomes 3 hours.
Okay,
and
so for me, I've had a completely different experience, especially when I'm traveling, whether it be camping or a 5-star stay. I have always received the best of service.
Yes, I have as well. I've been very blessed. So what I'm talking about them are, if they get told what to do, they don't like it. They'll say yes, yes to your face, but behind your back, they are angry.
Probably the reason for that could be, that's my know, way of looking at it, that they are underappreciated.
Yes.
Anybody who's cooking for you, anybody who's serving you, unless you treat them with love.
Yes.
What
and
are
that's
you
why
receiving? Yeah. What are you receiving?
Yeah,
and it has to show out in some way.
Yes. And that's why I feel, I have the most amazing relationships in India, just with the hotel staff, all of those people, the service people that, people say, how do you get things done? I say, because I build rapport and connection with these amazing people. I love them. They're the ones that sort me out. And
We have Rekha here who's saying, we are all taught to suppress.
okay.
Lovely background, Kanchan. Thank you, Rekha. These are all divine creation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are all taught to suppress. So when we're talking about suppression, when we're talking about the emotion that you said, that the service staff, the people, uh, be it anybody, today I am serving my clients when I'm designing clothes for them, or I'm designing art for them, or even when I'm going into the community and serving on a community project. It Serving is only and only about offering and sharing love, bringing joy to somebody's, you know face. When you as a healing facilitator are working with somebody, you basically serving them.
Yes, because all we can do is hold the space. And, like Rekha said, we're taught to suppress. But then where did you learn that from? Because, that's what I'm saying. She was taught to suppress, right? So even with like, if I just talk about my mother, and even with me, there's been times in my early relationships where I've not felt safe to express myself, because that's what happens when you don't feel safe to express your authentic self, because you feel that the other person is going to, they're going to not react in a nice way. That's when we do suppress. So the idea is to really learn that you are a loving being. You have every right to express yourself in love, in joy, in harmony, and to be. And even it's not, even if you need to speak in an assertive way, I call it. You have to be assertive rather than aggressive.
Yes.
There's no good.
There's a fine line between being aggressive and being assertive. You can say the same thing with a lot of love and compassion, and uh, communicate without hurting someone.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also comes from if you have dealt with your emotion to start with before you react. Instead of reacting, you need to respond when you're ready, when you've had a chance to process what's going on for you, and then you become, you're back into alignment. You're in a space of love. You're in a space of understanding, and then you can have a conversation.
Easier said than done, Neela. It's easier said than done. Even today, like if I recall, this evening I was working on my system, and Google failed. I didn't know that, there was some error there, and I could not log into my email. I could not do some important tasks that I was supposed to. And at that very moment, my cook, she bought me a bowl of soup. And though I'm somebody who believes in love, compassion, and um, communication with the heart energy, I just lost it. I was like, can't you see that I'm working? This is not the time for you to get me
But
soup.
Kanchan, you're human. We're all human. That's what I'm
So how
saying.
do we reach? How do we? And she was like taken aback. She was like, "What's wrong with you?" She told
Yeah,
me, "दीदी आप कभी ऐसे बात नहीं करते हो, क्या हो गया?"
yeah, but the reason why this happens is because people don't do things daily. In my book, I've got a lot of daily practices. If you practice breathing, meditation, yoga, some of the practices in this book, and you do them daily, it doesn't stack up. You're then able to, when that thing happens, to be so aligned in yourself that it won't really happen.
However, Neela, whatever said and done, when we are trying to practice compassion, when we wish to be love, when we wish to receive love, what is the easiest way to do that? Because
I think you have
all
to,
of us face so many challenges, so many fears, so many belief systems that, what if there are many what if scenarios.
yes,
And
yeah. So we have to stop wanting to receive love from the outside.
how is that possible? Being humans, how do you stop receiving love? Then you become a saint.
Yeah, because
When
we
once you
have,
stop accepting,
no, what I'm saying, you will receive it, but I think if you let go of the expectation that I need to receive it in this way or this form, and you start looking from within and you start looking around you. So, for example, one of the ways love for me is spending time in nature. It's doing my practice in the morning, my meditation. It's cooking myself a lovely meal. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in a relationship with somebody. I've chosen right now to be single.
let us talk about, we have a couple of minutes to go. Before that, I want to touch about romance and bridging the gap of love.
Okay.
So when you say that don't have any expectations from anyone, today most of the people I know, most of the people um, that come for facilitation of healing with you, they come with challenges in their romantic life, they come with challenges in their marital life.
Yes.
How do you bridge the gap with the other person? With oneself, I understand, you internalize, you go into deep contemplation, you uh, do meditation, and then there are various modalities and spiritual practices that you take up. But when
Yeah.
it comes to a love connect or a romantic connect or a partnership with someone else, how do you bridge that gap where you
Yeah. So I
unsure?
think you have to have a really real conversation around what your needs are. We all have desires in our relationships, and we need to be really clear up front that, these are my values. This is what I love. In my book as well, I talk about how people are compatible because you have different, you have similar values or different values, but you talk about it even before. And the thing is with romantic relationships also, when you start working on yourself, things change around you, so that what was perceived as a conflict or something before may just dissolve just because you've worked on yourself. So a lot of people will say, I'm having problems with my husband, boyfriend, father. And I say, right, you're the one that needs a session. That it's like, can you fix them? And I say, well, actually, you're the one that needs the
So
session.
so a lot of parents come to me, can you fix my uh,
Yes.
the teenage girl or the teenage? I'm like, let's sit and talk first. The parents first need the counseling, not the children.
Yeah, because then whatever you perceive that conflict was before, it just dissolves because you're then in alignment. When you're in alignment with yourself, once you change inside, everything changes outside. And that's what's so beautiful about it.
We have camps saying relationships, people put labels and a checklist and expect too much labels, and expect too much. Labels are for goods. Hence, people need to stop being sorry. Hence, people need to stop being pleasers and just show unconditional love. No one owes anything to anyone. Show gratitude. So
Yeah.
true, so true, Cam. Neela, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to ChaiShai Etc.
Oh, thank you. It was just wonderful to be on. We could talk for hours about this topic.
Yes, we can actually talk for hours and hours.
And that's why, this guidebook, it's a guidebook for a reason. It's a journey. The journey to love takes commitment, focus, action, and courage. So if we can get on that journey, you know, it's one baby step at a time. I think we can all bridge our hearts.
Guys out there, like Neela said, the journey to love needs, Neela, repeat, connection,
Commitment,
commitment,
courage,
courage,
focus,
focus,
action.
action. But before that, it needs communication
Yeah,
also.
communication and connection.
Clarity in communication
Yes.
helps any relationship evolve, whether it be with your parents, whether it be with your friends, whether it be a love connection, whether it be with your partner.
Yes.
Guys out there, I wish all of you a life full of love, a life full of joy. The
Yeah.
moment you drop the blame, the moment, I wouldn't say that stop expecting, the moment you have clarity in expectations, the moment you have clarity on what the needs are to be met, whether it be in any kind of relationship, the relationship nurtures and becomes beautiful automatically, effortlessly. Wish you
Yes.
all a life full of love, a life full of joy. And do not forget to get your copy of Bridge the Love Gap by Neela Gohil. Get
Thank you.
yourself this guidebook to love, which not only talks about the challenges, it gives you a solution as to how to overcome these challenges. Neela, once again, I love you a lot, girl.
So do I. You know, I'm so, gosh, full of love just to be here with you and talk to this audience and to spread the love, to bridge connection. You know, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you for
you
having me.
so much. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming here, listening to our conversation. Thank you for being a part of our journey. Thank you to all of those who are live right now with us. And always remember, love starts with you. Before you love somebody else, love yourself first. Good night, Shabba Khair. Bye bye to everybody in India, in UK, across the globe, wherever you're watching us. Thank you so much.
Oh.